Well, good Wednesday morning, friends. Mark Holmes here, of course, with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo, as well as Joe Bear in the house. And as always, I want to thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. So let's get open for business here and let's wake up those football gods. Wake up this morning. It's hump day. It is the middle of the week. It's all downhill after this. In fact, for our rookies, today is day number 3 of rookie mini camp or rookie school. Rookie school. They got so many names for everything else. Why can't we just call it what it is? We talking about
We sitting here, I supposed to be the franchise
practice.
player. We in here talking about practice. I mean, listen, we talking about practice.
We talking about practice.
Not a game, not a game, not
We
a
talking
game.
about practice. That's right. We talking about practice. And they've got today, they got tomorrow, they got Friday. And that's it. The team will then be on vacation until the 22nd of July. Here's the great thing for us, guys. We have a little over a month before they open up training camp because they are playing in the Hall of Fame game with, of course, the Steelers. They're opening training camp in Oxnard where you, the fan, can join in. As well as I know all the YouTubers will be out there. We'll have so much cover of training camp. It'll be no training camp like any other. The fact that we didn't have one last year and all of a sudden the gates are open, it's going to be epic. But we will be opening up training camp on the 22nd of July. Guys, today's what, the 16th? We're talking about a little over a month. And in fact, as we look at it, we're only 85 days, 11 hours and 38 minutes. 37 minutes and 55 seconds away from kickoff against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So if you're not getting excited yet, well, I don't know what to tell you. I guess you just don't have a pulse. You must be dead because we are getting closer and closer. And as this off-season comes to a close, where we start taking the pieces of things together and trying to figure out what's what and who's who in something that is impossible to predict how things are going to work out. Vander Esch has, talked about his injury situation. Make no mistake about it. If Vander Esch is healthy, he's been compared to Sean Lee. When Sean Lee was healthy, Sean Lee was a great linebacker. If the injuries hadn't happened to Sean Lee would have been one of the Cowboys' greats. He had the football mind, the tenacity and things. Unfortunately, the body couldn't follow. Vander Esch came out the box as a rookie and became a Pro Bowler and gave you promise for the future where you got a glimpse and said, oh, my God, we're set at linebacker between him and Jalen Smith. Unfortunately, injuries have derailed it. A couple of years back, his second year, there were like a 3-game section where he just did not seem to have it. And it was because of the neck problems that he couldn't turn the head. Well, the thing is, in football, what they always teach you, and why the head slap was so effective and outlawed, was wherever the head goes, the body goes. So when Deacon Jones smacked your head that way, guess what? Your body's following. And if you can't turn your head, you can't turn your body to make tackles. And this, in a sense, has been the problem for Vander Esch. So he has been at the facilities working all off season. And this is one of the advantages that I actually look at and say with the Dallas Cowboys that they have over other teams. Because the players are gym rats, because these guys are young, because they like living in Dallas, they're all kind of local. So it's real easy to say, I'm going to go to the Star and work out. I'm going to get treatment. I'm going to be there working out and getting my craft. And having that camaraderie of seeing your peers and things like that makes you work that much more. I don't know that you work as hard as you do on your own. Maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like to me that gives you that little extra push from your teammates, and it also brings you closer together. So he's been working at the facilities all off season. As he put it, he's putting on more armor. Okay, you know what? I wish it was a video game. Back in the day where you buy armor, power up. I wish we could power him up and just get him like a bulletproof suit. So that way we wouldn't have to worry about injuries. But instead, he's put on basically more muscle mass, which hopefully will help him. The other interesting thing is, and this is where you're seeing that Dan Quinn is becoming the mad scientist, so to speak, where they've done all kinds of experimenting. And again, this is another situation where the Cowboys have a bit of an advantage because they've had OTAs and mini camps that other teams didn't. They were able to plug and play people at different positions. You know, Micah Parsons has played middle linebacker, weak side linebacker, strong side linebacker, outside linebacker, pass rusher. You can really get a feel for guys, what they can do in ability. I know they're not in pads, and it's a little different in pads, but you can kind of get a feel for things that we want to go ahead and say, let's pinpoint this. So when we get to training camp, we're not doing that trial and error. We're not wasting time. We're able to go ahead and say, okay, Micah Parsons can be an outside rusher. So let's focus on that, okay? And in the same sense, they've taken Vander Esch, and most of the time when he was in the starting defense, he was on the weak side. Now, if you don't understand defense, and most of fans out there really don't know the subtleties, it's like when I tell you that there's a big difference between a defensive tackle and a nose tackle versus a nose guard. There really is. If you don't know the subtleties of it, then I implore you to just start studying football, because a traditional nose guard is usually a bigger, wider, immovable force that his job is basically to clog the middle. That's it. You need a guy that's going to be able to take double teams on and everything else and be able to drop an anchor and hold the ground. A defensive tackle is a little more athletic because he is basically getting everything coming from one side, and it's about getting penetration up the field. A defensive end is even more athletic because their job is basically seal the edge and get their ass upfield and come around the backside. And if you look and say, oh, it's just a defensive lineman, then, like I said, you just don't know. There's subtleties to every position. Well, the Cowboys, who have gotten Keanu Neal, whoa, dude, who they talk about playing, weak side linebacker, okay? And the reason they talk about that is because typically a weak side linebacker doesn't necessarily have to be as big as, say, a Mike linebacker. Mike meaning middle linebacker. The middle linebacker is the guy that really takes most of the punishment and the abuse because the guard's coming off. He's got to be able to take on that guard, shed that block, and scrape to the play. The weak side linebacker typically is doing more chasing from behind and covering receivers in the slot. Typically, that position doesn't get as much injuries. Back to Sean Lee and the comparison of Vander Esch and Sean Lee. Sean Lee, of course, going into the 2014 season, tore his knee up. That's when I first met Sean Lee, was actually him on crutches going to the CSA show. He actually said to Joe Boo, hey, he wanted to take Joe Boo home. And maybe I should have given him Joe Boo. Maybe he would be in the Hall of Fame. But when he came back, they played him at weak side linebacker as opposed to Mike, in which case he was getting more interceptions. He was actually got his first Pro Bowl, and he actually stayed healthy for 2 seasons there. Yeah, they're working on the fence. They're replacing it. And Roscoe already went out and came up in, so he didn't even flinch. Okay, anyway, Mike's like, what's going on? Well, you let him out, and I meant to close the gate upstairs, son, but he was already out. Anyway, we got to hit the road. That's why this is the broke-ass media. You get one take. If either it's great or it's ass, but you get one take because there's just not enough time in the day. So moving Sean Lee to the weak side where he was able to read, react, follow the wide receivers and not have to worry about taking on those bigger offensive linemen, he thrived. Now, this is an opportunity where if Vander Esch, with the extra armor that he's put on, extra armor that he's got now, playing on the weak side, able to chase down plays, it could be very destructive. The thing I like so much about Vander Esch is his attitude more than anything else. Because we've seen guys who, when they don't get their contract, they basically have a hissy fit. And I don't know if it's, I'm an old guy, and I'm used to understanding that back in the day, there was no free agency, or they didn't trade you just because you got a hair on your ass. You had no choice. You ended up having to play. Now, day and age, these players are all dictating not only that they want to be traded, but where they want to be traded to. And it feels like, I'm sorry, that you're a bunch of spoiled-ass mother humpers. And when players have been demoted, like Carson Wentz was, it was like instead of saying, I'm going to man up, I'm going to make myself so good that they're going to have to play me. As much as I hate Aaron Rodgers, that's what he did last year when they got Jordan Love. He saw the competition. Oh, it behooves me to be so good that I screw up their plans. That's actually being a man, as opposed to a little punk-ass biatch. Leighton Vander Esch, who didn't get the fifth-year option on his contract, took that as, I've got to do more to control what I can control. If I become the best player that I can be, everything else will fall in place. And not getting an attitude and saying, I won't be traded. Oh, I'm not going to show up. No. That is the right approach. That, for me, earned so much respect from me. And I believe that he's going to turn it around because, hey, he knows this is an audition either for the Dallas Cowboys or his next gig. And as I look at this team, there's so many guys that are in a position like that got 33 or 34 guys on one-year deals, that it behooves them to turn their situation around, to either be a Dallas Cowboy or to be on another team. And that's guys like Keanu Neal, DeAndre Kazee, that's Jalen Smith, that's Vander Esch, that's Zeke Elliott. There's so many guys that if they don't make a change will be made for them. And I think that you're going to see a lot of guys that are going to turn around the narrative on themselves. I may be wrong. And not all of them will. Some of them will continue down the path of, and in the same sense, when we look at having the 11 draft picks, we want them all to be Pro Bowlers. We want them all to be great. But the reality is half of them won't make the team. It just won't. If we can get from that draft 4 starters, it was successful. It would be, in my mind, successful. Because if you can get an impact player, at least one starter, a special team standout, and some depth, that's a great draft. The Cowboys were able to get 4 starters out of that draft, you're ahead of the curve. But that also means that you're dependent on guys, too, like Leighton Vander Esch and Jalen Smith and some of your other veterans to mix it all up together. So with that being said, Mikey is already packed up, ready to go, and we have to hit the road because I've got a home that I've got to get turned around so some people can move into it, because right now people need a nice place to stay, and I got to make this place nice. Do me a favor, if you like my woodworking and you want to learn something about rental properties or construction or the lumber's future, I'm putting more stuff on my channel, Jobu's Day Job Homes. And just because YouTube is so laser focused on niches that when you mix them up together, it kind of messes up the whole situation. And I get people who say, I thought this was a cowboy channel. And I'm just like, you know what? Everybody needs to know how to fix their hot water heater. At some point, your shit's going to break. And do you want to spend $1,500 to the repairman for labor, or you want to learn how you can do it and save that money? But not everybody's that way. But with that being said, I hope everybody has a happy Cowboys hump day. And you know the deal.
Our coach here, and as always, I want to thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Jobu Sports Report.